Hello, everybody out there. I am Keyoka, the awkward black nomad. I'm a writer, I'm a dog mom, and I travel solo. My channel is for black women who also want to do the same thing, who might be a little awkward, might be a little introverted. I've traveled solo to 12 countries, and I want to help you do the same thing. Today, we have a special guest, my friend in my head, Marissa Price. Let me bring her on. Yay!
Hey, what's up, y'all? Happy Friday.
Friday. We made it.
Yes, we made it. It's been a long week. It's been a long week, but we're here. We've arrived.
A year. I feel like 2024 raced to get to August, and now it's just kind of sitting, taking a break because time has definitely slowed down a lot. Oh, you froze a little. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to remind everybody that you come into.
Am I back?
Oh yeah, you're back. You're back. Hi. Oh no, you went away again.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Okay.
I just want to remind everybody as you come into the room to please like the video, please leave a comment, share, trying to get activity going.
Yes.
Yes.
All the activity.
Yes. So, Marissa, can you tell me a little bit about the kind of work that you do over on your channel? I'm pretty sure people watching this video already know who you are, but if in the event that there's some new people out here,
Me.
yes, you.
Yeah. Let's see. And sorry if my Wi-Fi is a little bit choppy. But yes, on my channel we talk about healing mostly, and also like sharing resources specifically for Black women and femmes on a liberation journey, a healing and liberation journey. So whether that's like coming back into your childhood self, finding different resources to. Hopefully, I'm back now.
You're back.
But yes, we talk about healing, liberation, sharing resources. I interview Black women to share their stories authentically, how they got to where they are, so that we can learn from each other. So we don't have to go down the same paths of trying to cobble together information of like, how did you get here? Really being able to share, like, this is how I did it, right? Share your game plan with other people, so we don't have to start from scratch. So I feel like that's the point of community. So that's really what we do on my channel: healing, liberation, mental health, resource sharing for Black women and femmes on a liberation journey.
Yeah. And I think also, at least in my life, no one has traveled solo. No one has really traveled, right? So to be somebody who is a self-proclaimed introvert, awkward Black nomad, right? It's like I need to see, or at least I want to be the person that other women who are kind of like me are looking to be like, well, that person did that. And I think that makes the journey a little bit easier, you know? So something I wanted to talk about was, you agree? I think there's a little delay, but so what I wanted to talk about, because you speak a lot about this on your channel, is mental health. And I think in particular, being travelers or being someone who travels solo, you kind of have unique challenges when it comes to mental health because you're away from sort of like the traditional resources that are available in your home state, or at least that's the perception. So can you talk a little bit
Yes.
about, if you're somebody who, and I suppose even if you don't struggle with mental health, it could be a useful conversation. But if you're somebody who is abroad or thinking about going abroad and you're concerned about not being able to handle maybe external stressors or whatever it is, downtime, low moods, could you talk a little bit about what people could do if they're in a foreign place or they're planning to go to a foreign place? What kind of resources are available?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to have a game plan before you even depart for your journey. And I know that Angela Kanu, who I did a workshop with earlier this year, she talks about this a lot. She helps Black women put together like an emotional well-being toolkit before you even leave for your trip, right? Leave abroad, especially if you're going to be traveling solo. I think that's important to have to understand yourself and realize that just because you travel abroad does not mean your mental health challenges, issues, things that you're working through disappear. In fact, sometimes they like get worse, right? Because you're not around familiar people, familiar settings, and having to do things like make friends, especially as an introvert, can be really difficult. So to have a game plan before you even go. And I think connecting with other people who are on a similar journey is helpful as well. So, like communities like Exodus Summit, like your channel, Keyoka, other people who are going through a similar journey so that, yeah, so that you don't feel like you're out here just being awkward by yourself. It's like there's other people who are going through this in a similar way, and to be able to hear from how they got on their journey, right? How they're doing, the ups and downs. I think the more of us who are like authentic in this journey and be like, y'all, every day is not like flowers and rainbows, even abroad. I'm still dealing with healing from a toxic job, trying to like rebuild my confidence after that experience, healing from childhood wounds. And I feel like being abroad has given me like more space to be able to sit with some of those heavier emotions because being in the US, we're just in survival mode all the time, trying to like accumulate enough capital just to meet like basic needs. That's a whole other topic. But yeah, it does give you the space to be able to reflect on some of these deeper things. But when you haven't had time to really sit with yourself, those memories and experiences can come on really heavy. And I think that's important, something to be aware of as you're traveling. You'll have more time to yourself, even if you're with other people, right? You'll just have more downtime. In contrast to a lot of other places in the world. So, what will you do with that downtime? When those memories start to come back up, when those experiences start to come back up to the surface, do you have a game plan, right? Do you have community already? Do you have a coach, a therapist that you can speak to about these issues? And do you have a self care practice? I think that's important too. Do you journal? Do you create? Right? Do you make art? Anything to kind of release the energy that may come up as you're traveling abroad around the experiences that you had wherever you were originally from.
Mhm. And I think having a game plan, even if you aren't abroad, is always good.
Hmm. Yes.
Like for me, just because I have like I deal with social anxiety and depression, so it's like I
Hmm.
just need these things in place that to where like if my emotions are kind of out of whack, if I'm in a new environment, I can always kind of
Yeah.
fall back on that routine or that like I know this is how I can get back to equilibrium, right? Like when I'm feeling like this, I know I can go like this.
Yeah. That's so important. Yeah, I have that too.
Yeah.
Someone who struggles with anxiety and depression, right? Having a plan in place day to day, like activities you can go to, even if it's like a list that you have like physically in front of you. If you wake up feeling like, okay, I'm feeling low, go to your list. Can I go outside today? Can I go in nature? Can I stick to my routine? That's something I've had to learn, especially coming out of a corporate environment. I went the opposite way. I'm like, I'm not having any routine at all. And that kind of threw me off track too. And so understanding that routine does not equate to punishment. Routine is actually a way to support your self care. And so if you can have a list of things that you go through on a daily that kind of bring you back, like you said, to equilibrium, I think that's important no matter where you are. Just to have that list of things that bring you back to you, to center.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Um, and so you kind of talked about leaving your toxic job, but I actually don't know why you started traveling. So what was it that kind of motivated you to go abroad? How did you actually begin your journey?
That's a good question. I think coming across Exodus Summit, really gave me the tools because it had been a dream for a while. And I think like my partner and I had just experienced really traumatic events being in the US, being young and black, right, in the different environments that we were in. And so just making a plan to leave and try something different in a different country. And it's kind of like that point, like everything kind of caved in. It felt like at one point to the point where it's like, well, why not just try this thing that seems impossible to do? Since it feels like my life is already like crumbling. Everything that I had worked for, all the degrees that I had gotten, the experience that I had gained to get into this like dream job, and it crumbled before my eyes, right? And sitting with the grief of that, it's like, why not just try something new and travel abroad? And also, when I took FMLA from that toxic job, I took 11 weeks off before I officially resigned. That was the first time traveling outside the US, to Mexico City and really interacting with people there. Even though as an introvert, that was highly overwhelming experience, especially as the first trip outside the US. But just being able to like interact with people and them treating me like I was human, right? Which is like not that much to ask for, but it kind of is,
Yeah.
unfortunately, in the US. Um, I was like, okay, this is proof to me that not everywhere functions like this, and that there may be an opportunity for me to try like life in a different way in an environment that actually like wants me there and doesn't view me as just like something to tolerate, which is how I had felt for most of my life. So I think it was like the catalyst of the toxic job, and then coming across Digital Nomad Kit too, which is the training program I went through to be a VA. That was around the same time that I was planning my resignation. And so once I had like the income stream kind of solidified, I was like, okay, this is something that I can do and explore and see what this is like.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to me that I'm just typing something in case people forgot um are unaware what this
Mhm.
is. But it's so interesting to me that I call it tower moments because I do tarot cards, but like having everything crumble, how that is always the catalyst of exploration, of wanting to start traveling, of wanting to like go abroad and just try a different way of life.
Mhm.
There's so many stories out there of people who are like, well, I had nothing else. And so I was like, this is my last resort. Let me go
Mhm.
abroad. It's
That's
like
true.
if we could stop people from if we could stop that like you don't have to be in a state of distress or to have everything come down or feel like everything is crumbling to be able to want to liberate yourself, you know, like it shouldn't take
Yeah.
an
Mhm.
emotionally shattering
No.
situation. Yeah,
No.
like we don't want you to get to the brink of the edge before being like, hey, maybe I could do something differently, you know.
No, you shouldn't. Not at all.
No.
Mm-mm.
um
No. And I feel like for those of us like, oh, I'm sorry, ju- just in like the culture of fear that exists in the US that's very deeply embedded. So it gets to the point like where your body is breaking down, which was happening to me in the job that I was in. Like my body was physically responding to the stress of the environment I was in. And it's like you have to take that leap. It's like the fear kind of comes down everything that we've been told, like you need to hang on to this thing that's really harming you. That kind of goes down and it like gets to a point like where your courage and understanding that if you don't do anything differently, like that death is actually a possibility. Like it gets to that point. But no, we shouldn't have to get to that point
yeah,
um to liberate ourselves. I agree.
I mean, we could listen, that could be a separate topic because we could talk for days about how Black people in particular are conditioned to struggle, right? We're taught that struggle is your natural
Yes.
state as a Black person.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
getting
That's
that,
true.
I feel like that could be a whole different conversation. Um, I have some questions for
That's
you. So
very true.
Michelle is asking, Marissa, where are you based now? Did you make CDMX your home?
No, currently in Guadalajara, Mexico is where I'm based now. But no, Mexico City was beautiful, vibrant, lots of things to do. But as an introvert, it was just overwhelming to my senses, I would say. So I personally couldn't live there, but to visit, yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be.
That is so interesting. You mentioned your senses being overwhelmed. So, like, what kind of so if you're a person, right, and it's your first time traveling abroad, how do you tap in or tune into your body to realize when you're overwhelmed?
That's a good question. I think for me, I'll notice like my nervous system will be off. And a lot of that has been me sitting with myself and observing my nervous system when I'm relaxed, when I feel at peace. So through resting, right, and even taking notes about how does this feel? And then that allows me to contrast when I'm in environments where I'm overwhelmed. And then I'll start to notice, okay, my breath is shallow, my palms are sweating, I feel like I can't focus my energy anywhere, and that's when I know, like, my senses are overwhelmed. I'm very like, as a sensitive person, I'm very, like, overwhelmed by sounds, like, loud sounds, like, sights, things that I have, like, to focus on multiple things at the same time, which is what I experienced in a huge city like Mexico City. Um, so that's those are some of the signs I'll notice, like, my nervous system just being off through breath, feeling like I can't really like root in anything, like my attention is scattered everywhere. And this is
Mm.
also something like in the grocery store. The grocery store is very difficult for me still, right? As a sensitive person, just being overwhelmed by multiple things to look at. So the more that you can be in tune with how you are at rest, when your nervous system is relaxed, the more that you'll be able to identify in the moments where you're kind of off, right? And contrast those two.
It is so interesting you said the grocery store because I talked about this a few Fridays ago how I drove all the way to the grocery store and could not go inside. So the fact that somebody else is experiencing
Okay.
the scene,
I
I
can't
get
do the grocery store every day. Like, I have
yeah.
to work up. Me too.
Yeah,
Me
yeah, I have to
too.
work up my
And so I
courage.
see someone else said, say the grocery
Yeah, Gabrielle said the grocery store.
Okay, we're
It's
not
overwhelming.
alone. The
It's
grocery
overwhelming.
store is overwhelming.
It is. I want to go back to this. So Yvonne says
Mhm.
you use it as a form of escapism versus self-care. I think she means traveling, and I agree with that. Um,
That's a good
yeah.
point. Mhm.
And then Brown Girls Invest too. D, hey D, says back against the wall will show you who you are and give you the opportunities that you need. Fair.
Mhm.
Mhm. Um, so I think for me, I think sometimes uh the reason why I really wanted to do travel discussions for introverts is because I think we have a specific set of issues that could also be tied to just being black women, right? But I think I'm associating it with my introversion or my shyness because I think a lot of the times when people look at traveling, it looks very extroverted. Okay, everybody's like in the
Yes.
clubs, bottles up, they're on the
No,
beach.
my
Whereas,
favorite.
like, I talked about in my video when I talked about Spain, I went to the beach at like I will go to places at 5, 6 a.m. because I know there's no one there. Okay.
Yes.
No one like an extroverted person is not going to do that because they want that experience, they want that engagement with other people. So it's just very important to talk about things from the perspective of an introvert and to talk to other introverts about it. Because just that moment at the grocery store, we see each other. All right.
We s we here. Yes.
Here. We're here.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah. I think that's key to understand that. Mhm.
no, go.
I was gonna say, sorry for the delay, but yeah, to realize that your experience will not necessarily look like Instagram, YouTube, like we judge so much based on the way that people portray traveling on social media, and then we judge ourselves based on like, am I doing these things correctly? Right? As if there's a correct way to do them. It's like what works for you. Like you said, going to the beach before other people get there. And you still get the experience of the beach, right? You still get the photos and stuff like that, but you're also preserving yourself. And you're not basing your life off of what it should look like based on these like arbitrary social media posts that we see. You're actually being in tune with yourself, which I think is important for mental health as well.
Yeah, I think so too. Um, so going back to Mexico, did you uh so obviously you went to Mexico City, you felt like that wasn't your vibe, you went to Guadalajara. Is Mexico the first place you've gone abroad? And how did you end up
Yeah.
choosing the city that you like?
Yes, it is the first country I've traveled to outside the US. And I think it's just like a process of trying. Mexico City was the first place, Playa del Carmen was the second place, where I got to meet Alicia Renice, but and Sandra as well.
Love.
Sandra from Lack to Legacy, I think is her YouTube handle. But yeah, trying different places around Mexico, and eventually ended up in Guadalajara because it was like we actually came here sight unseen because it was like in between the research that I did. It was like in between the bigger city of Mexico City and Playa del Carmen, from what I could tell. So it's kind of like a smaller city, less not distractions. That's not the right word, but less things to look at as an introvert who is very sensitive. A smaller city vibe,
Mhm.
more like people tend to know you when you go out certain places, even though we are like in a major metropolitan area. Just having a smaller setting, I think, has been really beneficial. So yeah, it's basically just trying out different cities, doing research to see the things that we liked and didn't like, and then ultimately just taking a leap of faith, really trying out Guadalajara. And yeah, this
Yeah.
ended up being the destination.
Bangos in Massachusetts,
Yeah,
Guadalajara is a
I agree with that.
right, but feels like a small town. Um, so that's important to you, right? To be able to build community and be remembered, not necessarily have a ton of things to do.
Hmm.
Mhm.
He's,
So
I'm
why do
sorry,
you
can you say that one more time? I think my Wi-Fi went out.
oh,
Sorry.
sorry. I said so it's important for you to be able to build community as opposed to like having so many different things to do in a bigger city like Mexico City.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I'll say like building community has been difficult for me, just to be
Mhm.
honest about that. Um, like attending some of the events with Black expats have been great, but I think it's like social anxiety still makes it really difficult for me to establish connections with people. And I feel like the virtual environment, right, being able to build community in that way has been pivotal in this journey if I'm not quite ready to make that step in like building and cultivating in-person relationships. I think at least having like an online community that I can go back to receive that community aspect that I do need for wellness has been pivotal.
Yeah, I think so too. Even so like the Exodus Summit community has been phenomenal and like embracing, but I think in-person meetups still really cause me a lot of anxiety. Even though I know, even though I know going to meet a group of
They
ladies
do.
from Summit is like a big hug. I know it. I know I'm gonna be embraced, but I
Yeah,
still am like, but I have to put on clothes. Do you know what I mean? But I have to leave
yeah.
the house though, right? Like I get it. But you
I
want me
feel
to
the
go
same way.
out, like, and it's so hard
That's
to explain to people. I really want to see you, but I don't actually
sometimes I
want to.
don't got it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Uh,
Sometimes I don't got it.
ooh,
Mhm.
so I don't got it.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, for me, like, kinda understanding the roots of that, going back to childhood because I was bullied as a child. And so that was the root of a lot of the social anxiety that I feel, and now I have difficulty in adulthood cultivating friendships and relationships because of that. So a lot of that healing work has been me revisiting those times early on when I was ostracized, when I was isolated in school, and understanding that I'm an adult now, right? I'm around different people that I choose to be around, and I don't have to continue that pattern if I don't want to. I have the agency to do something different. Yeah.
And so, since you brought that up, we can talk about your workshop, which I've linked to in the comment section.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of the motivation behind creating this workshop?
Yeah, so I think, like, this was an idea that I've had for over a year now. Um, just having a social work background and understanding how much childhood trauma really impacts our everyday lives in adulthood. And a lot of us feel like we have to, like, kind of cut ourselves off. Everything that happened before 18 doesn't matter and is irrelevant. And we're just like these new adults springing up new out of the ground. But it's like, no, that's childhood trauma and understanding your childhood and telling yourself your own story, which is a video I did recently. That's the key to really understanding how you're operating in adulthood. In the process of me understanding how I was in a toxic job and how I felt like I could not leave, that has been really going back to childhood, exploring childhood wounds, understanding adverse childhood experiences that I went through, which is the title of the workshop, healing from the impacts of adverse childhood experiences, um, and understanding how this is impacting me, right? And impacting things like self worth, self esteem, feeling like you cannot leave because as children, we couldn't leave. Environments that were deeply harmful to us, we had to stay. And so that has been programmed into a lot of us to the point like in adulthood, we feel like we can't leave. Even though
Mm,
we're like full grown people, we have the agency to move about the world as we please. We're still like trapped in a lot of these childhood cycles of trauma. And so that's really the purpose of the workshop. How do you heal from these things? Understand how they're impacting you, and then, yeah, start your healing journey so that you can chart a new course for yourself.
that's true. That's true. I get that as well because oftentimes
Yeah,
anxiety does feel like you're trapped. You know, even though rationally
it does.
I can
Mhm,
remove myself from this situation, the panic of it, the panic of not being
mhm.
able to leave, I think that's very powerful, recognizing your own agency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge. Keyoka, that was kinda like a light bulb moment for me, feeling trapped. Because anytime I'll have, like, anxiety attacks, that's the feeling that comes up. It's like you can't leave, and really understanding where that comes from. Because I
Mm.
think that's important. These things that we're feeling, they don't come from anywhere. They're actually rooted in real experiences that we've had, and also, we don't come to Earth having, like, anxiety attacks, right? So that leads me to the belief and the understanding that this is rooted in experiences that we've actually had in reality. So when that feeling of feeling trapped comes on, I know that especially, like, being on planes as it relates to, like, travel, that is a huge source of anxiety for me, and so having grounding techniques to remind myself that I'm not well, technically, I am on this thing that I can't get out of, right? But I can still be in my body and ground myself and breathe and all the things I need to do to survive and be well. Because it can also feel like you're like floating above your body. I know that anxiety gives me that feeling a lot, like I'm not really here. I'm not really present. I'm just kind of like floating above. So the more that you can adopt re-embodiment techniques like deep breathing, recognizing things in your environment that you can bring your attention to and focus on, that really helps with those feelings.
Yeah. I think also, there's certain ways that I've recognized my nervous system is trying to protect me, for some from something.
Mm,
And then in my adult life, even though I have the wherewithal to protect myself, I notice I still am reacting to things in the way I did when I was a
mhm,
child. you know? So like you talked about that detachment, not feeling like you're inside of your body. Like that was a coping mechanism that worked when you were a child, but now that you're an adult, you're like, actually, I want to be present. I want to feel things. I want to feel through this. And that's really difficult to do.
It
It
is.
takes a lot of practice.
Ooh, it is.
Good old
When you
therapy.
have been dissociated.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you have been dissociated from your body as a form of survival for
Mhm.
so long, coming back into your body and allowing yourself to feel, that process is, ooh, that is very difficult. And so I love that you pointed that out. That's not an easy process. And it's actually one that requires a lot of patience, self compassion, grace, because it's a gradual process over time that you intentionally start to come back into your body and realize that you don't have to be dissociated anymore as an adult because you have the power to now remove yourself from toxic environments.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also important to know like this is not work that you have to do alone. There are resources
Yeah.
available to you.
Hmm.
Not just building community, which can be scary, but also if you take Marissa's workshop, she can be a resource to you.
Yeah. Yes.
So why do you think it's important for solo travelers to have a community, even if it's not an in-person one, even if it is a virtual one?
Hmm. I think just some of the everyday challenges that come up. I know that language has been something that I have been working through as someone who's not fluent in Spanish. And I think I had an interview with Ami on my Instagram page a couple months ago, and he was sharing like learning a new language is very vulnerable, and that was like an aha moment for me because that's what I've been feeling. It's a practice in vulnerability of allowing yourself to say like I don't know what you're saying, and especially as an introvert, right? Because I don't like to interact with people to begin with, so now I have to try to like communicate with you that I don't understand. Like, could you slow down? All of these things. So having a community that understands the challenges of that, just everyday things like that, has been um, pivotal. So I think that's one of the reasons why community is important. Also, just to share resources when you're in a new place, like, like just like grocery stores, doctors, if you need something, right? The practical everyday things of life that you may not think about as you're planning this like journey that seems so like sparkly and everything like that, there are still the everyday things of life that you have to tend to. And so if you can plug back into a community that has already gone through these things, that already has doctors that they can recommend, I think that's pivotal as well. And yeah, just to keep like the encouragement going on this journey because it can be lonely. I know that I've taken a few solo trips and you really have to rely on yourself. You have to lean into self trust, which is not always easy. So to have other people reflect back to you that you can continue even through the hard moments, I think is crucial as well. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So what do you think you've learned since you've been abroad, like since you've gone through this process of building your own community and living in a new country?
Hmm. I think I've learned that I can trust myself.
Mhm.
I can trust myself. That I have gifts within me. I have talents that I haven't tapped into yet. Um, that people that I'm not actually. Ooh, that's kind of deep. That I'm not actually a problem, right? Because being in some of the environments that I have been in, yeah, right? Being in some of the environments I have been in throughout my life, like, I thought that I was the problem or the issue. When I was just in the space, being in my body, when I, like, spoke the truth, the arrows came towards me, and then I internalized that as, "Okay, something's wrong with me. I need to shrink. I need to lower my voice." And understanding that traveling actually requires you to really be authentic, I feel like, to really like explore the parts of yourself as you explore the world and connect with other people. You have to lean into authenticity. And a lot of that has been like unlearning the messaging that I have been taught that I'm a problem, that I'm not enough, right? It's really like, no, I'm doing this journey, right? I'm trying new things, I'm going to new places. I'm trusting myself. I'm trusting my intuition as well. That's another navigating this, right? New spaces that I'm not familiar with, new people. And again, I don't speak Spanish fluently, but really relying on my intuition and realizing you don't have to speak the same language as someone to like get people's vibes, right? And really like tapping back into the power of my intuition has been pivotal as well. Oh, thank you. Yes, yes, I agree with that.
And is and does. So, has
Yeah,
there ever been a time where you felt unsafe, like, when you've been traveling?
that's a good question. I can't pinpoint a time when I felt unsafe. There have been moments where I've been like frazzled, and that's just been due to, again, nervous system dysregulation and feeling like I had to be perfect at everything. That's another thing that I'm learning. Perfectionism, right? And you really learn to embrace flexibility in life as you travel and not take things too seriously because things will not go according to plan, right? So, in those moments, that has been more internal work. I can't pinpoint like a certain moment when I felt unsafe so far. Um, Knock on wood. In this journey, right? Most of the times I felt unsafe have been back. All of the times I felt unsafe have been in the US.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. So, what has your
Mhm.
experience been like making friends? Because obviously you're an introvert. Um, I don't.
Mhm.
Are you? So you aren't? Are you solo traveling? Are you solo or you aren't?
I take solo trips, but no, I'm here with my partner in Guadalajara.
Okay, so like you always
Mhm.
have somebody to tag team a social situation with, or have you done it by yourself where you're like, okay, I have to meet people, or I'm gonna go out? Have you been intentional about making friends?
I have gone to like maybe one function where I've been by myself. And yeah, that's difficult.
It's giving no,
Um
giving no. I haven't.
it's been difficult, right? Going to like gatherings with other expats. Those have been the parts are the experience as an introvert, again, recovering from social anxiety, all these things that I've described in childhood
Mm,
as well. But one of the ways that I've done that is just by kind of, I don't want to say pushing myself, but that's what's coming up, pushing myself gradually to go into environments that may make me uncomfortable initially. But again, trusting myself that I have done this before and really focusing on the end goal, right? To
mm,
make connections, to um, build relationships and stuff like that. And I find when I interact with people one on one, which is most of the ways that I've done interaction, that's much easier for me than being in a group setting. So if I can meet with you one on one for lunch, we can talk about our experiences, share resources. The barrier is much lower than something like a loud, large group setting as an introvert traveling abroad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I totally understand that. Um, So then do you have any tips? Do you have something that you like to do? Like if you let's say you're looking to go to not necessarily a meetup, let's say we're not there yet, but if you want to meet up with
Mhm.
someone for lunch, is there any self-talk that you do to get yourself ready to go out into the world to meet another person that could be helpful to someone?
Yeah, I think so. Telling yourself that you're enough, right? That any interaction that you have, you can survive because it can get to that point where it feels like a life or death situation sometimes when you have severe anxiety, like I do,
Mhm.
right? So understanding that you will come out of this alive, repeating that to yourself. Affirmations are huge for me. I wrote a book of affirmations, Cocoon, and so that has been really helpful in reminding myself that I can transform. I can enter into new situations that may be uncomfortable initially, but really trusting in me, right? That I do bring something to the table, that this person does want to meet with me to converse. And I'm not in the same environment that I was in before. That has also been crucial because trying to meet up with people in like corporate settings and environments has been deeply harmful to me because a lot of the times that's transactional, right? It's like what can I get out of you? It's not like a genuine conversation. So understanding that you're enough, um, that the person you're meeting with is genuinely interested in what you're saying, what they want to share with you. Um, and yeah, that you can do hard things. You can do hard things like go to lunch. And I know it may like for extroverts, I may be like, is that really that difficult to go to lunch with someone? Yeah. It can
Is.
be very difficult to even get to that stage. Yeah.
It is. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that you're comfortable.
not always. Like some days are
Mhm.
definitely easier than others, but it is.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And it's all
It
about
is.
like
Yeah.
building building up the courage little by little, right? To be able to do something difficult. Um and then
Yeah.
having measures in place for when you go. I think for me, I always say we'll give it an hour. Like let's not go crazy. We'll give it an hour. And if we don't
Yeah.
comfortable, we're going to make up an excuse.
Mhm.
We're going to make up an excuse and we're going to go. And that's okay. The dogs are always in
I love
danger. They're
that.
in peril or whatever it is. Because, I'd love to stay, but just get out of there.
Mhm.
Like, sometimes you have to just
That's huge.
preserve self.
Yeah, having a list of, like, excuses that you can use. If things get too like, you feel your nervous system, "Okay, I can't do this today." Right? I came here with the best of intentions, but I'm realizing, like, I'm checking in with myself, today's not the day. Having a list of excuses, like you said, like, "I gotta go and do this thing," right? To preserve yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, because that's the key at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I always love to say you can never say the wrong thing to the right person. So
Mhm,
your friends, the people who mean you well, will always understand. They will always
mhm,
understand because you've shown up for them in other situations. You've shown up in other ways. So you not being able to do this one thing, it's not that massive, right? There'll be other
right,
opportunities, but today you need to nurture yourself and be forgiving. Um,
right.
so yeah, making friends can be scary.
It can be. Yeah, and that's why I love, like, you talk about in your channel, like, because this is something that may be shameful
Mm, yeah.
for some people still to even, like, say out loud, like, "Yeah, I have difficulty making friends." I do. So to see, like, someone like you, like, say it out loud, like, "Yeah, it's difficult." That frees a lot of us who are like, "I thought it was just me, like, I thought it was this awkward girl that's not able to make friends." Like, no, there's other people out there who are going through the exact same thing. There's a bunch of
And
awkward girls out there. So, yes.
And to be fair, I'm someone who values deep connections, right? So I'm not really good at maintaining superficial
Yeah.
friendships, just to be
Mhm,
honest. Like,
mhm,
so I think it's just you'll find your tribe. You find people who are going to accept you, and the people who don't, they weed themselves out. But that's not something you need to internalize. That's just the nature of relationships. It could just be transitory.
mhm.
Let me tell you, every time you give me a
That's key. Yep.
every time you give me a I feel like I spoke a word. Every
That's true. To not internalize that, to
Yep,
not internalize what people have told you in the past about yourself. And I think leaning into your authenticity, which is something I've been doing as I'm entering my 30s. It's like realizing that I can be my authentic self now because in the past, it came with consequences like isolation, like all of the bullying, all these things. When I was a 30-year-old, it's like I'm going more into being who I am and realizing, like you said, that will attract the right people and the wrong people will naturally fall off when you're being yourself.
exactly. Exactly. And I think there's something liberating about crossing over into 30 because my I don't care is heavy. Like my I don't care and I'm just gonna do what fits for me, what works for me is it's freeing. I don't have that people pleaser. I still have some tendencies, but like I don't have that guiding my life anymore. It's all about like what brings me joy, what brings me comfort. Um it gets better as you get older. I'll say that. When I was in my early 20s, I was a hot mess. Now I'm a lukewarm mess.
Oh my gosh. 20s. I've been having an idea about doing like a video on that. The lie of the 20s is your best era of your life because that's all I heard. And now being at 30, I'm like, my 20s was a wreck.
Yeah, it was a
It was a
mess.
wreck. Someone lied to me. Mhm.
It was a mess. But I think there's something I've been thinking about recently. I want to close the gap between looking back on my life and seeing the good parts of it, but I wasn't experiencing the good parts, if that makes sense. So like I look back on my 20s and I was so critical
Mm.
of myself. I was so critical of myself. I was so critical of like my whatever I was doing. But in that moment, I really wish I had embraced, I wish I had loved myself a bit more. And I really don't want it to be another 10 years before I can look back on my life and say, like, actually, I wasn't doing that bad. It wasn't that terrible. I wish I had shown myself a little bit of compassion in the moment to where I'm looking at myself 10 years from now and I'm like, yeah, I'm happy I made that decision. I mean,
Mm.
sure, I could say, yeah, things had to work out this way. But I was really gritting my teeth through a lot. And you don't even realize you're gritting your
Yeah.
you stop doing it and it feels like, oh, that's what 30s feel like. I can stop.
That's true. And what you said, like, I y'all, but what you said about loving yourself
Yeah.
in your 20s, that's huge. Because I'm just now coming to the point at 30, embracing self-love because I really did not like myself. All
Yeah.
throughout my 20s, like seeking external validation in other people, places, and things for a decade plus. And the trauma of that, right? And realizing that no, you have to actually go within to find the things that you're seeking. None of that exists out.
Oh, it looks like you froze a little bit. You froze a little bit. But yes, all of that.
Oh,
Are you back? Are you back? I think there's a little lag, but it's okay. So
okay.
then,
Hopefully I'm back. Hopefully
yes,
I'm back. Sorry,
I
y'all.
think it's okay. It's okay. So why would you say that mental health right now is so important, not just for introverts, but for Black women?
I think based on the conversation I had last night with Kamisha L. Jones, who is a clinical social worker in Chicago, we were talking about the rates of things like suicide, right? Of depression, of anxiety when it comes to Black women. They're rising. They're rising. So this is an epidemic. Mental health, especially as we see the world in chaos, the country in turbulence, and trying to understand your place in all of this while you're encountering daily things like microaggressions at work, openly hostile behavior, while you're the leader. A lot of us are the leaders in our communities. And so the pressure and weight of that, we feel like we can't take a step back and prioritize our mental health during the times when we need to.
Mm.
Um, and as I talked about last night, like the superwoman syndrome, a lot of us will lean into taking on even more duties, responsibilities, tasks in the moment that we feel those initial symptoms of sadness come on. If you are experiencing something like depression or anxiety, we'll push those down and take on even more. And this is like part and parcel with our dehumanization in the US. And so, really understanding that mental health topic that's being discussed because we have not been viewed as human beings in the society for that long.
Yeah.
So understanding that is it's important. It's key to realize that you're a whole human person, and part of that is how your mental health is functioning, how you are interacting in society, the things that you have to continuously press down. One of the things, right, is anger. So we're not allowed to be angry, express our frustration. So that kind of manifests in the body as mental illness a lot because we're not expressing that energy that we should be able to due to the constraints of living in an oppressive society. So I think mental health is crucial, especially for Black women, as we see, like I said, the rates. Sorry, I think I'm back. Anxiety, depression, OCD, which I'll be talking about on my channel coming up. Black girl OCD. All
I
of
can't
these
wait for
things
that.
kind of compounding, understanding that the ways that we're yeah, thank you. The ways that we're socialized really lead our symptoms to become even more severe because we aren't able to seek help a lot in the initial stages when we feel those first come on. And so it gets even worse, right? We go even deeper into what we're already experiencing, spiral down until the point where we have to like break glass. It gets to that moment like where we can't continue where we're going. And a lot of the times we're in crisis mode at that point. So it's important to be able to identify the symptoms early on, seek help, seek community. Um, yeah, realize that you can prioritize.
Unrelated, but the older I get, the more I understand crimes of passion because people will really play in your face. To where
Yeah.
you want to grab a baseball bat. Oh, she left us. Well, she'll
Mhm.
be back.
That's
But
true.
sometimes you really, I get it. And I think as Black women, we really carry a lot. You know, like if you get nothing from this conversation, I'm telling you that you need to prioritize yourself. Take the cape off. I don't want to be anybody's
Mhm.
inspiration. I don't want anybody to hang their, you're so strong, you're so brave, you're so courageous. I don't hang it on me, right? Because I'm doing things in this world for
Mhm.
myself, for the nurturing, for the love of myself. Even being able to solo travel, even being able
Mhm.
to overcome some of my anxieties, some of my social anxieties, I'm doing it because I'm trying to create joy within my life. I'm trying to have a good experience in life. I'm not doing it to be anybody's success
Mhm.
story, anybody's like, you're a strong Black woman. Listen, leave me out of it. Okay. This is why a lot of Black women, you'd be like, what happened? Why is she
Yeah.
so hungry? Where did all of that come from? Because she's been suppressing it. She's been angry for
Mhm.
30 years. She's been angry for 20 years. And then all of a sudden, she went upside somebody's head. I get it now.
Mhm. Yeah,
I get it.
that's true.
Hmm.
That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, there's this article I came across a couple years ago, like Black women let your anger out. And I linked it in one of my videos recently. But yeah, that's crucial. There has to be ways for us to express rage, right? A
Yeah.
natural human emotion that we're told that we're not able to access. That it has to be like in this cute box and we have to put on like a fake voice and like do all these things to pretend that we're not affected. It's like, no, these things are actually deeply angry.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to have safe space to express those human emotions.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
there's a TikTok trend of a girl saying, very demure, very feminine, very like all
Oh.
and it's like I get it, it's a joke, right? But I
Mhm.
just feel like this this move towards femininity has been because Black women have been separated from womanness for so long because we've had to carry everybody on our backs. We've had to carry I was reading this book and they talked about carrying slave ships on your back. Like it's something you carry with you everywhere. And I think with especially Black women, because we are supposed to be a credit to our race, we're
Mhm.
supposed to be high achievers, high earners. Like we've been sort of like we've been I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say we've been the men of our race for so long
Mm.
that now as a response to it there's this push towards like first forced femininity, forced servitude in a way that has never really been our mo. Getting
Mhm.
totally getting off topic. but we are like the backbones, yeah, like Yvonne says, the backbones. um
Yeah.
And we're exhausted. I think we're exhausted, and it's coming out in younger generations. It's coming out in the millennials and the Gen Zs who are just like, you know what? F it. I'm not doing any of it. And I think also too,
Mhm.
older women are finally getting to that place where they're like, why was I living my life for everybody else? I think for me, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, I just want to stop it before we get there, before you are 56 and you look back on your life and you realize that you
Mhm.
didn't have as much agency as you would have liked, or that you were doing
Yeah.
all of these things to please other people. I want to stop you at in your 20s. I want to stop you in your 30s and say start looking at what causes you joy now. Start looking at what's inhibiting you from achieving your dreams right now.
Mhm. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yep. And I
Tangent,
think
anyone.
yeah, no, I think even being able to access this information, at 30, right, to learn from other Black women who have already, like, been at this stage of life and heed their advice, really. I think that's something special, especially about YouTube that I've discovered.
Yeah.
I don't have to go through things because I already received the lessons, that people Black women have shared on their channels, right? It's been like a community learning space YouTube has, and I feel like it's so special in that way because we're all like collectively on this freedom journey, but we each have like a special part to play in it. And just
Mm,
being able to like see how they all come together to educate people coming up. That's one of my guiding values as well. How can I share this with people coming up so that they know what to be prepared for?
yeah. There's so many resources now. There's so many people to watch on YouTube, which is why I'm happy you came to my channel. Because you're someone I watch. You're someone who I'm looking to kind of like help me through these difficult moments, right? So I'm so happy you're here.
Mhm. Yeah, so happy to be here.
Okay, I know we got off topic a lot. Like, Um, I want to ask you about what sort of mental health practices you could give to someone, not necessarily who's traveling, but just like, let's say there's somebody who's dealing with introvertedness, depression, anxiety, something that they can do on their own to sort of prepare them to go out into the world. We talked a little bit about grounding, journaling, um, having a game plan. Is there anything else you want to share?
Mhm.
I think there's a
I
little
think
delay.
having an awareness of what you're yeah, having an awareness of what you're experiencing is huge because a lot of us are just operating in our day to day. Again, in the forced survival mode that we're in, you don't have space to really like zoom out and understand how we're operating in the world. So the more that you can bring your awareness to how you're showing up, and kind of question yourself, is this how I want to live? And then go to the roots, right? What is impacting you? that you may not even be cognizant of. Because that's one of the things, especially with being diagnosed with major depressive disorder in the job that I was in, realizing that this environment mirrored my childhood so closely, a place that I could not leave. And I also experienced what was termed then as depression too in middle school, right? From such a young age. And having to connect the dots between those two and realizing, oh my gosh, there's very similar things that are happening in both environments. So, really bringing your awareness to that, connecting the dots. And journaling has been so helpful for me in that. Telling myself my own story, right? Combing through my childhood, even making like a family tree, which I've done, and understanding how different like symptoms have shown up in different family members and how they've impacted me. Things like substance abuse that I witnessed growing up early on, and how that's impacting me, which is again is a adverse childhood experience, which can lead to things like mental health issues in adulthood, which is what I'm experiencing. So the more that you're able to bring your awareness to it, connect the dots, incorporate things like nature, going out into nature has been helpful for me to ground, to understand my place in the world. I feel like that has been helpful. Um, Breath work, so recognizing when I'm holding my breath, because breath is really like the key to life, right? Especially when we're experiencing like a depressive episode. I know that my breath is one of the first things to go, right? When you feel like you can't get up and do anything, like being able to just deeply breathe can be cathartic, can be cathartic. Journaling, breath work, therapy, of course, um, community, connecting with healthy community that allows you a safe space to share what you're going through so that you don't feel so isolated. Um, yeah, therapy. What else can I share? Journaling, writing. I have a Substack blog. So that has been helpful in healing, just going back and sharing my story, disintegrating the shame, really, because I feel like for me at least, shame and depression kind of go hand in hand. And the more that I think Lamazini says like expression is the antidote to depression. So the more that you can express what you're feeling, that disintegrates the shame and then you don't feel so isolated. At least that's what I experience.
Mm. Yeah, Glamazini is another one who I enjoy watching. She told I know
Yeah.
she told me don't I'm not gonna put my business out there. Anyways, so my last questions are kind of like something that I want to know. These are things that I want to know. It's low-key unrelated to the discussion. How are you
Okay.
finding joy these days? What is bringing you joy?
What is bringing me joy? I think connection, nature, reading, writing. Um, what else? My YouTube channel has been bringing me a lot of joy, just connecting with other people on a similar journey. That has really decreased a lot of the feelings of isolation, especially in healing from a toxic job, which can feel like you're the only one navigating this. The more that I put my story out there, the more people are like, I have been through this exact same thing. And that kind of is healing for me too. So putting myself out there, YouTube has been bringing me joy. Traveling has been bringing me joy. Um, yeah, cooking, cooking. I rediscovered my love for cooking. Um, After having like my appetite gone, being in that toxic work environment, I'm having to like reawaken my palate and taste buds again, and just experimenting with different things in the kitchen. So that has been good. Um, yeah, and I think just being able to observe the beauty of Earth, right, and allowing myself to sit with that and just observe and be grateful that I'm here.
That's beautiful. Where have you traveled to recently?
Let's see, the last trip I took was to LA. Yes,
Oh, for
LA for the Exodus Summit meetup.
mm,
Mhm.
beautiful. We love
Yeah.
a chef also. I love people who can because I can't. Because I don't know what I'm doing.
I
And
don't
then
either.
You don't either, but you play around with this.
I,
I love
I
that.
play around.
I love,
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I could do a little 1-2. Give me a recipe. And then it's a surprise how it comes out. Okay, my other questions are
Yes.
because I've been nursing this idea of driving into Mexico with my doggies, and you told me that you have a dog, Kofi.
Yeah. Hmm.
What was your experience bringing him into Mexico?
So we had to have his rabies vaccination sheet signed by the vet in the US. And I believe that's the only thing because we flew American
So you flew
into
in.
Mexico. I know it can vary by airline, but I believe it's just, yes, we didn't drive. We didn't drive. Just,
And like, how are
mhm.
dogs received in Mexico?
Just the rabies.
Just right. So is it
Oh, very well.
are they what loved?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say loved is the right word. Every place that we've been into, like restaurants, allow dogs. Yeah, people are just a lot more dog friendly. I feel like also because the restaurants are open air here, and so it's easy for you to just bring your dog in. But yeah, people have been really, really welcoming when it comes to Kofi, and he's a people dog. He loves people. I do
Okay.
not so much, but he does. Yeah,
But having a pet makes it easier to talk to people because people will focus on the dog. Like if they're dog
that's
people,
true.
yeah, like if they're dog people,
Hmm.
they sit on the ground and want to pet the dog and all this other stuff. So
Hmm.
you can have a conversation that's around the dog.
That's true. Yep, yep. And he also goes up to people like when I'm in like a mood where I don't really want to talk to people. He will go up to people and then I'll have to like go into conversation mode because he's an
Yeah,
extrovert. He's an extroverted dog. It's interesting to see like dogs' different personalities. Um, but yeah, that kind of brings me out of my shell to
yeah.
initiate conversations with people too. Yeah.
I love that. That's my favorite thing about having my dog. I have a lot of other reasons for loving my dogs, but one of them is it makes it easier to have social interactions when they're around. Um, so this was an amazing discussion. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
I don't think so at this point. I appreciate you having me on. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. Yeah, and just to see you share your journey so authentically has been helpful for a lot of us fellow introverts, awkward Black nomads, right? To be able to see ourselves reflected back to us in such a powerful way. So thank you.
That's beautiful. I received that. And thank you so much for the work that you do. I've put Marissa's workshop, Healing the Impact of Childhood. I'm not reading it. That was just memory.
Adverse childhood.
Adverse. Exactly. I put a link
Yeah.
to it in the comment section and also in the description box. Follow Marissa on all social media platforms. I have links in the description box. Please like the video, please share, subscribe. Um, what? Yvonne is also an introvert. She's just in denial. Anyway, she's just in denial. All right. The people are singing your praises, Marissa. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with
Oh,
me. I
thank
love
you.
having you on my channel. We got to do this again. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I think that's everything. Peace out, y'all. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.